Ladies and gentlemen, can we settle down to start our last session of this EB, hopefully, to finish before lunch? Welcome back, the honourable delegates. I hope we would be able to finish well in time today if we stick to our agenda. And let's straightway get back to sub-item 5.7, provisional agenda of the 71st World Health Assembly and date and place of the 143rd session of the Executive Board. The draft provisional agenda for the 71st World Health Assembly is contained in document EB 142/31. And I shall ask Dr. Timothy Armstrong, Director GBs, to update us in this regard, given the discussion at this session of the board yesterday. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, distinguished delegates. Just revisiting this item from yesterday to include the changes which were proposed yesterday. I may ask if we could have the document up on the screen. It's coming. I'll begin highlighting what the proposed changes in light of yesterday's discussion was as the document's coming up onto the screen, such that you can see it, as was the request from Algeria and others of yesterday. As discussed, item 18.1 will be removed from the draft provisional agenda of WHA 71. Just waiting for the document, I'm sorry. Get the file up. Just read over. Just while the file is being loaded onto the screen, I will repeat that item 18.1 will be removed from the draft provisional agenda of WHA 71. I would then like to draw your attention to the progress reports. Progress report under Promoting Health Through the Life course. Item K, Health and the Environment, Roadmap for an Enhanced Global Response to the Adverse Health Effects of Air Pollution, Decision WHA 6911, 2016. Will be merged with substantive item 11.5, health, environment and climate change. So just to repeat that the progress report under promoting health through the life course K will be removed, and that item will be merged into strategic priority matter 11.5, health, environment and climate change. Right, we have the on-screen text now. Thank you. So, as indicated, item 18.1 shall be removed. Progress report K shall be removed, and its content will be merged into strategic priority matter 11.5, health, environment and climate change. Likewise, progress report M, committing to the implementation of the global strategy for women's, children's and adolescents' health, shall be merged with technical matter 12.3, global strategy for women's, children's and adolescent health, 2016-2030, early childhood development. Chair, can I just check that those proposed amendments to the agenda are agreeable to the board?
Right, if there are any comments on these particular amendments? Is there anybody? Okay, yeah.
Just a comment now, thank you, on the Executive Board agenda. Advanced version of the Executive Board agenda. The item on WHO reform will be added to address the two documents that were not discussed by EB 142. That is EB 142/5, governance reform, and EB 142/4, report of the officers of the board. So to note that those two items, as we discussed yesterday on governance reform and the prioritisation tool, will be discussed at EB 143. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So if there are no further comments, I take it that the board wishes to approve the draft decisions contained in paragraph 4 of the document EB 142/31 as Iraq has the floor.
Mr. Chair, really our concerns about the introductions of the cholera, as has been suggested by Zambia, really this is very important subject for all of us, and we support that cholera ought to have a specific issue, as it's not only just include with the public health preparedness and response, but ought to really to focus on it within a specific issue due to the many concerns about the preventions and also dealing with the case of the cholera. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iraq. So, is the Honourable Delegate from Iraq making a proposal that it should be an additional item on the agenda? At the moment, it is with the health emergencies and preparedness.
Sorry, really? Can we also to have some, if you give me a time, really, in order to arrange for these types of the proposal, in order to also consult with our colleagues of the Zambia as well and with those who are concerned?
It's up to the honorable delegate to Iraq, but the procedure is if you make the proposal and the board agrees, we go ahead with that.
I propose that really to add the preventions and the control of the cholera as a separate, really, one of the paragraph within the emergency preparedness and response. Thank you very much.
I would like the board to take this suggestion into consideration of the honorable delegate from Iraq. Algeria, you have the floor.
Bonjour.
Good morning. We do support this proposal. We support Iraq's proposal.
Thank you, Algeria. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to say that all efforts have been undertaken up until now to increase the efficiency as well as limit the number of items on the WHO agenda. Therefore, we would like to ask the board to make sure that they are flexible and avoid the proliferation of the number of items. Of course, we are extremely interested in cholera, but we do not wish to add this item. Thank you.
Thailand, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I also don't want night session at the World Health Assembly as well. It's May, it's springtime, we should be relaxed there. So I suggest a compromise that we request the Secretariat in their report on the preparedness to include cholera into that agenda without opening a new agenda. And the Secretariat should help member states who want to propose a draft resolution to move forward. Chair, not every member state know the process, how to table a draft resolution. And Secretariat, as they have already indicated, they want to, Zambia, as I understand, they want to do table a draft resolution. I request Dr. Tedros, please ask your staff to work with them, to help them to know the process and to come up with good consultation among member states in Geneva. So that the draft resolution, when go to the Health Assembly, can be approved expeditiously. And we will not have night session.
Netherlands and then Sweden.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to support the suggested compromise solution by Thailand. Thank you.
Sweden.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to support every word that was said by our Canadian colleague. It's a matter of good governance. So I also support the compromise proposal by Thailand. Thank you.
Tanzania.
Tanzania also supports the way Thailand have actually put that it should be part of the report in the preparedness and then table it as a resolution. So I support what Thailand has proposed.
France.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, we would also take the floor to support what was said by Canada as well as by Thailand. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll request the Secretariat to.
Thank you, delegates, for that. Those comments. The Secretariat then. Oh, sorry, Zambia. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia, we view this topic very important. We would have liked to have a dedicated discussion, but if there's no appetite for a dedicated session or a place on the agenda, we are happy with the suggestion by Thailand.
It seems quite agreeable now, but I'll still like Secretariat to have his comments.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Zambia and others for the proposal and the compromise position. The Secretariat therefore takes note of the recommendation that prevention of cholera will be included in the preparedness item for the WHA 71. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. With Iraq, you have the floor.
Very much. Really, that is a compromise action, and we agree about this. And we ought really to have a progress reporting about it. Very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iraq, for taking this position. Thank you very much. So, Algeria, you have the floor.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also take into account Canada's proposal and can accept this compromise solution put forward by Thailand. Thank you.
Okay. So as there are no further comments, may I take that the board wishes to approve the draft decisions contained in paragraph 4 of EB 142/31 as amended? I see no objection, so decisions are approved as amended. As for the date of the next session of the Executive Board, I should like to propose that 143rd session of the Board be held on 28th and 29th May 2018 in Geneva, following the 71st World Health Assembly. Algeria, do you want to speak? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to all. It's not a comment on the dates of the B session right after the Assembly, but rather a request for an update from maybe you or the Secretariat on the discussions about the international days. I understand that in the Islamabad meeting of the Bureau, the discussion on the agenda items, on some agenda items, arrived at a solution by which the Secretariat would map out the situation of international days, and the Bureau would resume this discussion at some point in time. Just an update for the members of the EB on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil, for pointing that out. In fact, it was discussed quite before I respond. May I ask Swaziland to take the floor?
Chair, thank you very much. I would like to agree with the date and place of the next EP session. However, Swaziland would like to make some statement that concerns the way we do our business as EB, if you'd allow me, Chair.
Though we are going to discuss the rules of procedures and reforms in the next EB, as just pointed out by the Secretariat. So would you like to contribute in that session in a formal manner, or do you think it's very important to discuss it now?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence on this. I think it would be proper to voice it here as food for thought for the next session.
In that case, we'll request you to be brief, and we would not open it up for discussion.
Again, thank you very much, Chair, for your kind attention on this. Swaziland takes the floor to express its deepest gratitude to the Chairman of the EB for his profound astuteness in the way you guide the proceedings of the EB meetings for the past several days when we were here. You executed your duty in the highest possible professional conduct and diplomacy. What a commendable job you have done, Mr. Chairman. Would like also to commend the DG and his secretariat for the excellent preparation for the EB and the overall command they displayed on the issues discussed. We take this time also to thank Congo for serving so diligently in the EB for the past 3 years, and we welcome Gabon as they come to replace Congo. Our overall appraisal of the EB proceedings is that the EB has become a mini WHA, and this, Mr. Chairman, is very concerning. We spend long and unhealthy hours listening to long interventions and country statements giving us country reports that add little or no value to the work of the EB. We understand that the EB must be transparent and uphold WHO's inclusive principle and demonstrate the highest level of accountability. But that, Mr. Chair, can be achieved without necessarily creating another WHA. Mr. Chairman, we urge EB members and member states to seriously consider this in the reform of the governing bodies in the coming EB session. The EB must remain a board and not another WHA. I thank you.
Thank you, Swaziland, for your intervention. And of course, we would urge the board members to consider it during the deliberations on WHO reforms. So let me get back to Brazil, and let me point out that the international days were discussed in detail during a Bureau meeting in Islamabad. There were various suggestions to actually celebrate new days or change the way we designate the days. And there was a suggestion by the DG that we should develop a process to evaluate the impact of celebration of these days. Whether does it have any influence on the eventual outcome we want, or it doesn't have any influence. So we are the Secretariat, and we are trying to develop a process to have an actual evaluation so that we can really decide whether to have one day, let's say the World Health Day every day, and to change themes around it, or have maybe 40, 50 days every day with no impact. So we stand at this point in time with this understanding, but we'll come back to you hopefully by next EB. We would be able to have some solid report for you. Thank you very much for bringing it up. So if there are no other comments, I take it that the board agrees to hold the 143rd session in Geneva on 28th and 9th May 2018. It is so decided. In compliance with Rule 8 of the Rules of the Procedure of the Executive Board, the Director General will draw up a draft provisional agenda for the 143rd session of the Board and circulate it to Member States and Associate Members within 4 weeks after the closure of the current session. This concludes our discussion of sub-item 5.7 of the Board agenda. Thank you very much. We move on to the next session, that is 5.6. Due to some unforeseen circumstances and situation, I have to recuse myself from this session, and I'll request Vice Chair to take the chair. And I can assure you this was absolutely unforeseen for me.
Thank you, Chair. Probably goes to show sometimes there's a reason not to read the board papers before the meeting. We'll now consider item 5.6, which is reports of committees of the Executive Board on foundations and awards. Members of the board have received document EB 142/30, which contains the reports of the selection panels. The following 5 committees and panels met under various chairs. The Aisan Dogramachi Family Health Foundation Selection Panel met on Tuesday, the 23rd of January, early this week, and the panel proposes that the 2018 prize be awarded to Professor Vinod Kumar Pol from India. I therefore invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. Is it so accepted? In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. No. No gavel. Number 2, the Sasakawa Health Prize selection panel met on Wednesday of this week, the 24th of January, and the panel proposes that the Sasakawa Health Prize for 2018 be awarded to the Pediatric Palliative Care Unit Foundation, or the Fundación Pro Cuidado Paliativo of Costa Rica. Apologies for the pronunciation. I invite the board to accept by consensus that recommendation of the selection panel. There being no objection, it is so decided. Number 3, the United Arab Emirates Health Foundation selection panel met on Tuesday, the 23rd of January. The panel proposes that the United Arab Emirates Health Foundation Prize for 2018 be awarded to the Korea Institute of Drug Safety and Risk Management of the Republic of Korea. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. There being no objection, it is so decided. Number 4, the State of Kuwait Health Promotion Foundation selection panel also met on Tuesday, the 23rd of January, and that panel proposes that His Highness Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmad Al Jaber Al Sabah Prize for Research in Healthcare for the Elderly and in Health Promotion for 2018 be awarded to the El Barra Association Cancer Patient Association of Algeria. I invite the board to accept by consensus that recommendation of the selection panel. In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. Finally, number 5, the Dr. Lee Jong-wook Memorial Prize selection panel met on Tuesday, the 23rd of January, and the panel proposes that the Dr. Lee Jong-wook Memorial Prize for 2018 be awarded to Dr. Nazni Wasi Ahmad of Malaysia. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. There being no objection, it is so decided. Finally, the Dr. A.T. Shusha Foundation Committee met on the 10th of October 2017 under the chairmanship of Her Excellency Mrs. Saira Afzal Tarar, Minister of National Health Services, Regulations and Coordination from Pakistan, who is the chairperson of the Regional Committee for the Eastern Mediterranean. The panel proposes that the Dr. A.T. Shusha Foundation Prize for 2018 be awarded to our own chair, Dr. Asad Hafiz of Pakistan. That is the reason he is not sitting in this chair at the moment. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the Dr. A.T. Shusha Foundation Committee. In the absence of any objection and in the presence of considerable applause, it is so decided. This concludes the board's consideration of sub-item 5.6 of its agenda, And I now hand back to our chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Philip.
Apologies while we seek out the chair. He's probably enjoying a coffee. We will now consider sub-item 4.3, the Global Strategy for Women's, Children's and Adolescents' Health, 2016-2030, Early Childhood Development. The report by the Director General is contained in document EB 142/19. In this instance, the board is being invited to note the report. I do, however, open the floor for comments. I hand the floor to France, to be followed by Bahrain. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, I have the honour to speak on behalf of Germany, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Spain, Estonia, Finland, France, Iceland, Japan, Latvia, Luxembourg, Norway, New Zealand, Netherlands, Portugal, United Kingdom, Sweden, Switzerland, Thailand, and Uruguay. We would like to thank the Secretariat. We thank the Secretariat for putting our attention on early childhood development. Almost half of the children in low and middle-income countries are at risk of not achieving their full development potential. Sustainable development starts with safe and healthy children. In humanitarian and migratory crises and fragile settings, children are particularly vulnerable and exposed to violence, abuses, abandonment, and neglect. We encourage the WHO with its partners to protect and promote children's health and the rights of the child in these particularly challenging contexts. We are fully committed to the global strategy for women's, children's and adolescents' health. Universal access to quality and affordable comprehensive health services for these populations is key in the context of UHC. We're still fully committed to gender equality, the promotion of women, girls, and adolescents' rights, in particular their sexual and reproductive health and rights. We underline the importance to provide access to information and to a comprehensive set of quality sexual and reproductive health services. It's up to the women's and girls' rights to choose if and when, with whom, and how many children they want. It is about a world where every pregnancy is wanted and every childbirth is safe. In developing countries, 214 million women still do not have access to modern contraceptive methods. Attention to men's responsibilities, engagement, access, and the use of contraceptives is also essential. The report highlights that a number of areas need to be addressed, such as the unmet need in family planning, unsafe abortion, cervical cancer, and violence against women. Nearly half of abortions performed between 2010 and 2014 worldwide were unsafe. We therefore urge the WHO to maintain a bold leadership on sexual and reproductive health and rights. Lastly, we welcome the WHO's continued efforts to build coherence among the initiatives and partnerships in support of the global strategy, including the PMNCH, the H6, and the GFF. We congratulate the WHO and the Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights for the development of a framework of cooperation. A human rights-based and gender-responsive approach is key for this global strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, France. Bahrain, you have the floor, and then Tanzania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of all Eastern Mediterranean region countries, we welcome document EB 142/19. The report presents new data and initiative concerning women's, children's, and adolescent health with focus on early childhood development. We acknowledge the remarkable progress which has been made in recent decades to improve women, children, and adolescent health worldwide. Still, we need to work together to further reduce mortality among women, children, and adolescents. The fact that under 5 mortality has been half in the past decade, change in the age, causes, and subsequent location of child death, and mounting recognition of the importance of taking action to help children who survive, grow, and thrive, or all catalysts for strategic reconsideration of the global approach to child health. Mr. Chairman, we believe that early childhood development from conception to 8 years of age is essential for transformation sought under the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is in the first 1,000 days that the brain develops at an astonishing pace. This period is therefore the most critical for the fetus and the child to receive nursing care. The health sector is in a unique position to reach out to families and caregivers during these early years. Indeed, many interventions for reproduction, maternal, newborn, child, and adolescent health, such as newborn care, breastfeeding, nutrition, mental health, HIV, prevention and care, has a direct impact on child development. We note the report and call upon WHO and partners to support member states to implement and monitor intervention for nutrient care and scale up care for child development as an approach for strengthening services to support responsive caregiving and early learning. We also request the Director General to continue supporting member states' effort to integrate early child development in their national plans, to adopt an integrated multi-sector approach to build national capacity on care for child development, and to support the strengthening of national health information system to overcome data gap challenge. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Delegate from Bahrain. May I now request Tanzania to be followed by Canada. Tanzania, you have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The United Republic of Tanzania is honored to make the following statement on behalf of the 47 African member states. We take note of the report on the current initiative WHO is undertaking with other stakeholders to support countries in addressing the health needs of women, children, and adolescents, and we are looking forward to a more detailed information, including that which will be made available on the Global Health Observatory data portal, including the full set of 60 indicators in the report to be submitted to the Health Assembly in May 2018. We welcome efforts to support countries in strengthening health systems, especially in the area of human resources, where we need to invest more in having skilled health personnel who are critical for ensuring quality services are provided in all that need. We have also noted efforts underway to improve access to contraceptives, including promoting new products. We would like to continue to stress that the need to ensure safety of these products. One of the areas of concern is the issue of fertility return after use of these products. Some products are not providing clear information on fertility return, so we request clear information on this matter be provided in all products, as users have the right to know both the benefits and the side effects so that they have informed choice. Chairperson, we appreciate the data provided in the report on safety of abortion and equally appreciate the launch of the Open Access Global Abortion Policy database. We further want to emphasize the role of culture in influencing the implementation of some sexual and reproductive intervention in most of our countries, and we call for a strengthened local research. On performing abortion services, we would further like to emphasize on the importance of performing it on medical grounds and take account of national context laws and regulations. In addressing young children, Mr. Chairperson, we welcome the development of a draft global framework for nurturing care, which is focusing on the first 1,000 days within a life course approach. And we also take note of the fact that WHO is developing guidelines in nurturing care in early childhood and leading the effort in developing measurement framework and additional framework. We are looking forward to its finalization. Mr. Chairperson, finally, we recommend that the report, which will be presented at the World Health Assembly in May 2018, to have an annex on the names of countries who are targeted by different initiatives. As we have observed in this report, there are different initiatives and different number of countries that have indicated, but it is not clear which those countries are. We need more transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. Canada, you have the floor, to be followed by Dominican Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Canada is fully aligned with the joint statement delivered by France. In addition, we wish to commend the effort of WHO for building the dedicated global strategy portal linked to the Global Health Observatory and continuing to work across WHO and with other partner agencies to strengthen data and estimates for all the global strategy indicators. We further commend WHO's work in strengthening data and information related to safe abortion and safe abortion policies and supporting the Family Planning 2020 goals. The ambition of the SDGs will not be achieved unless progress is made in addressing gender inequality, and empowering women and girls, including ensuring success to sexual and reproductive health and rights. In the spirit of our approach, we would like to focus on the poorest and most vulnerable. We therefore underline the importance of more gender-responsive nutrition policies and will continue our efforts to reduce prevalence of anemia by leveraging our investment to increase the provision of micronutrient supplements, including iron and folic acid. Finally, we wish to emphasize the GFF as a key tool to accelerate progress on women's, children's, and adolescent health, including early childhood development and sexual and reproductive health and rights. The GFF is currently replenishing its trust fund, and Canada encourages other member states to provide financial support to this innovative mechanism. I thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Dominican Republic, you have the floor, and then Zambia.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Dominican Republic would like to commend the WHO for having recognized the importance of early childhood development as a foundation for development throughout the entire life course in the agenda of the Global Framework 2030 for the SDGs. We would like to say that the organization should make sure that women have access to modern family planning and to make sure that member states try to improve the resources aimed at improving women's health as well as adolescents and children's health. We promote the integration of the health cycle as well as human rights, and we really focus on these approaches to try to deal with cervical cancer as well as breast cancer, as well as teenage pregnancy and sexual violence. We also think that we need to keep going with the investment resources, investment plans aimed at providing resources to early childhood development, especially in terms of emotional and psychological health, which is extremely important to human health. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Zambia and then Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Chairperson. Zambia aligns itself to the statement made by Tanzania on behalf of the African region on this agenda. Chairperson, as a demonstration of the commitment to the resolution of the 69th World Health Assembly of 2016 on implementation of this strategy, issues to do with this agenda have been prioritized in our strategic documents. We welcome advances made in prevention and treatment of cervical cancer and want to particularly pay tribute to WHO for supporting our proposal for nationwide rollout of the human papillomavirus vaccine. In regards to early childhood development, we note that an expanding body of evidence demonstrates that early childhood development interventions can improve health, well-being, educational attainment, and socioeconomic outcomes throughout the life cycle. The health sector in many countries, including Zambia, is the principal sector that reaches caregivers and the youngest children during the first 1,000 days. The Nurturing Care Framework, a draft of which was released about 2 days ago for global consultation, offers us a roadmap for integrating ECD interventions into the health and relevant social sectors. We call on other member states and partners to join us in co-sponsoring an event at the World Health Assembly to launch the Nurturing Care Framework and build on this momentum. I thank you.
Thank you, Zambia, Kazakhstan, and then Colombia.
Distinguished Chair, Kazakhstan would like to thank the Secretariat for this excellent report. It outlines all the problems affecting women's, children and adolescent health, especially at an early stage. We would like to support what was said by France, where it was the basic problems were outlined. And in many regions of our country, women's and children's health is one of the main priorities for our policies as well. We have established a government program on this. We have allocated adequate financial resources, staff, etc. There may be no particular medical problems, but when it comes to the social aspect, there are problems. This relates not only to the family position, psychological problems, violence, etc. One of the problems is families that are brought up by in a single parent context, and in our certain regions there are a large number of orphanages where children do not receive proper attention right from the beginning, and so there are further health to be in the future that occur, especially mental health. We need to address these problems in orphanages. We need to make sure that children are brought up within the context of a full family. We need to address every aspect of development for the family, for such children. We need to ensure that everything is made available for them. And then these problems affecting our region will be solved. Once again, we'd like to support this report and the draft resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Colombia, you have the floor, followed by Iraq.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We recognize that health and women's rights and children's and adolescents' rights are absolutely priority items to achieve a sustainable development. Taking into account that health is a fundamental human right of all people, especially those who find themselves in situations of vulnerability, the efforts in Colombia have focused on ensuring equitable access to these health services and to ensure quality and affordable care. Therefore, we believe that the new data is very relevant, as well as the new activities that have been proposed in the DG's report, especially the special attention paid to early childhood development, which really has to be at the heart of sustainable development policies. We believe that the next report on the implementation of the global strategy should really focus on healthcare for early childhood, as well as to childbirth. This area is very important to us. Thank you.
Iraq, you have the floor, and then Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We want to reaffirm on the following points in this. Really, first, reduction of the maternal and child morbidity and mortality is of the paramount importance. Secondly, early children development now forms a great concern, since milestone development ought to be followed, and really I confirm what has been said by my colleague from Bahrain. This is to be followed meticulously. Accordingly, school health services ought to be supported by WHO, and this is to be integrated with under 5 years health. Thirdly, supporting reproductive health strategy and integrating it within sustainable developments is imperative. Fourthly, adolescent health ought to be given specific concern through, first, bolstering school health services, secondly, combating communicable and non-communicable diseases, focusing on the sexually transmitted infections, and thirdly, school health education, action-oriented, ought to be given specific concern, and fourthly, specific attention ought to be given for father and mother and teachers, councils to follow up health status of the children, and fifthly, mental health forms a great approach for adolescent health, and we focus on change the Arabic translation of adolescent. هنا تغيير من مراهق إلى يافع. فاللغة الترجمة العربية.
So we would need to change the translation in Arabic of the word adolescent instead of using the term murahib. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, the Honorable Delegate from Iraq. May I now request Mexico to take the floor, and then Philippines. Mexico, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There is an absolute necessity to program multi-sectoral and comprehensive actions to create better environments, as well as to have changes in human health areas, especially when it comes to when it comes to children and adolescents' health. We also need to have certain tools for healthcare personnel to make sure that they can take care of these populations and make sure that the healthcare services are the best possible. In Mexico, we have an intersectorial focus, especially with regard to the issues that have an effect on adolescents, such as accidents, suicides, self-inflicted violence, addictions, as well as high-risk behaviors to do with food and non-planified pregnancies. We do have to take into account the opinion and the participation of adolescents in the design and the implementation of these strategies. We will be very attentive to the result of the survey that has been put in place by the UN in Mexico, and we will also be trying to include these results in trying to improve the healthcare treatments for these populations. Thank you very much.
Philippines, you have the floor, and then Thailand.
Thank you, Chair. The Philippines appreciates the report. Guided by the global strategy, the country's strategic plan on child health and development is anchored on the principle of survive, thrive, and transform. This provides substantial directions on child health and development for provision of interventions that address various social determinants, socioeconomic inequities, children of indigenous peoples, children with disabilities, and not just on interventions for survival. We also share the same sentiment on placing importance on knowledge and information management relevant to the sustainability of health human resources in every country. Also, integration of programs and approaching a patient-centered continuum of care using the first 1,000 days approach can be complemented by existing interventions such as a nutrition program. We welcome the adoption of the nurturing care framework, stressing the crucial importance of scaled-up multi-sectoral action during the first 1,000 days. There is indeed the unique role of the health sector in reaching families and caregivers with information and essential interventions during this critical time of a child's life. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. Thailand, you have the floor, madam, to be followed by Georgia.
Thank you, Chair. We note several good progresses and certain stagnations. In particular, the progress towards safe abortion, cervical cancer prevention, and prevention of violence against women, despite supports by international partners. Chair, the main bottlenecks are the country commitment and their capacities with adequate funding and monitor outcomes. We would request Secretariat to provide technical support, in particular, the development of standardized assessment tool on child development and the guidance to promote child development at all levels. The tool and the guidance will provide great support to member states in developing interventions based on their socioeconomic, cultural, and geographical contexts. Moreover, we want to emphasize the contributions of promoting child development and physical activity to well-development of children. Hence, we would like to see this issue to be highlighted in the global framework for nurturing care. Thank you.
Thank you, Thailand. Georgia, may I request you to have the floor, and then Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to mention that Georgia attaches a particular importance to the issue of protection women's and children's rights at the national level as well as at international level. In this context, we consider that women's, children's and adolescents' health is a very important area to work in and we need a progress. So in this context, we welcome the Secretariat's work and the report regarding the global strategy for women's, children's and adolescent health with the focus on early childhood development. So I wanted to express our general support towards the issue. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Delegate from Georgia. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pakistan welcomes the Secretariat report and work done on the global strategy for women, children and adolescent health, which gives a special focus on early childhood development. The special theme of focus on adolescent health is welcomed by Pakistan, with a particular focus on girl child. We believe that women are an ingredient of development and healthy or unhealthy behaviors are shaped during adolescence life, thus highlighting the critical importance of this period in life cycle. In Pakistan, we have a 43% of population which is under 18 years of age, and the 10-point RMNCH Action Plan and National Vision for Health 2016-2025 reflects the importance which the country gives to the adolescent health and early childhood development. However, urgent attention is needed to the issue of universal health coverage and inclusion of women's health as a priority health system strategy. If neglected, the girl child tend to do poorly in both in schools and subsequently as adults, which reflects on low incomes, high fertility, and provide poor health care, nutrition, and stimulation to their own children, thus contributing to the intergenerational transmission of disadvantage. Pakistan is committed to the Family Planning 2020 goals by attempting to increase the CPR by 50%, which will help in improving the overall maternal child survival indicators. Lastly, we would like to highlight the urgent attention required to the area of early childhood development and extending midwife-led continuity of care in future deliberations in the context of global strategy for women, children, and adolescent health. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Delegate from Pakistan. We now move to non-EB member states, and I'll start with Slovakia, to be followed by Ecuador. You have the floor, Slovakia.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Slovakia would like to thank to the WHO for document EB 142/19, focusing our attention on several elements of the global strategy and mainly early childhood health. We would like to share with you 2 points that receive attention of our experts. We echo our distinguished delegate of Kazakhstan. We draw attention on early bond, attachment and relationship of child and parents in terms of best interests of the child and the child's and later adolescent successful social and emotional development. We support the approach of early child intervention where, except functional health system and networks that also include a social determinant of child health, healthy family relationships having crucial role in building healthy physical and mental state of the child and adolescent. A child needs a full family environment for a healthy psychosocial development. Only in this way can she fulfill her needs and experience the secure relationship that is the basis of the quality of relationships and communication at later times of life. Our work and work with families and children is based on the development of parental skills. As the consequences of a negative impact on a child in the early childhood may be manifested in different areas of her life, including health, social pathology, cooperation and awareness with parents, the wider family or carriers, educators, teachers or foster parents is essential. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, we thank the WHO Secretariat for the open dialogue and cooperation with our experts on modern fertility awareness natural methods of family planning, and stressed the necessity of more research in this area that we see as a keystone of the mosaic of family planning and an important part of regular reports under the Global Strategy for Women's, Children's and Adolescents' Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Slovakia. Ecuador and then Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have handed in my full statement to the Secretariat to save some time. Ecuador has a national plan of sexual and reproductive health 2017-2021, as well as a nutritional plan throughout the life course, which is called Zero Malnutrition. We also have a mission plan, which is called Throughout the Life Course, which is aimed at increasing childhood development, especially children under the age of 5, where we emphasize 1,000 first days of life through the design and the implementation of mechanism of public policies as well as interinstitutional coordination, national and local coordination. We also have a women's plan. We urge the WHO to continue supporting the countries that are developing policies and activities in the areas of sexual and reproductive health rights, as well as access to modern contraceptive methods, reduction of sexual violence, as well as decreasing maternal and neonatal mortality. We are also working on the elimination of maternal child transmission of HIV and the prevention of cervical and breast cancer. We think that redesigning these guidelines on childhood health is very positive. These guidelines have been presented by the WHO and UNICEF. We would like to say that there should be an intercultural focus for us to be able to reach more segments of our population and people in countries that need these health services. We also think that we need to find a way to helping more in childbirth, and we need to have a human rights-based approach here with a gender perspective that is also community-based and intercultural. Thank you.
Thank you, Ecuador, Indonesia, and then USA.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia remains committed to support and implement the global strategy to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals 3. We believe that the effort to end preventable death of women during pregnancy, delivery, and postnatal must go along with improving the quality of maternal service. In doing so, children can reach their full potential physically, mentally, and socially, and are accorded with their basic rights. The number of children aged 0 until 6 in Indonesia is more than 33 million. This has presented Indonesia with an opportunity to reap demographic dividends in the period of 2025-2035. Indonesia has adopted several programs on early childhood development and conducted, in synergy with related ministries, professional organizations, academics, and non-government organizations. Indonesia suggests this kind of synergy is also developed at the global level. We suggest WHO, UNESCO, and the other related stakeholders to collaborate to develop a global framework on early child development program based on the same vision and understanding of the role of each stakeholder that will support our common responsibility to ensure that children are protected from threat, receive good and appropriate nurturing care, grow up in a stable environment that promote health and optimal nutrition, and receive early stimulation and education to make them a better future generation. Indonesia welcomes the proposal of Secretariat reports on the implementation of the Global Strategy for Women, Children, and Adolescent Health 2016-2030 should also examine how to extend midwifery care to women and newborn. For an archipelagic country like Indonesia, the service of midwifery is very critical to ensure equal health service to all women. Indonesia has created a compulsory certification program for midwife.
You may quickly complete.
Indonesia has created a compulsory certification program for midwifery and deploy midwife to all villages in Indonesia. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. I would once again urge very humbly to all member states to kindly restrict to the allocated time. Thank you very much. USA, you have the floor, followed by Peru.
Thank you, Chair. We appreciate the efforts to accelerate action on adolescent health and support the panel's recommendations to give greater attention to health of 10 to 19-year-olds, as well as to collect, analyze, and use age and sex disaggregated data, and to strengthen accountability at all levels. The U.S. recognizes that the use of tailored and multi-sectoral approaches centered on the involvement and empowerment of families and communities plays a critical role in improving adolescent health. At the same time, critical sustained efforts are needed to end preventable newborn and under 5 mortality. We have concerns with any proposal that would shift resources or attention away from life-saving efforts. The U.S. would also object to the use of information in the Global Abortion Policies Database to lobby for or against abortions. U.S. foreign assistance funds cannot be used to pay for abortions, motivate or coerce any person to have an abortion, to lobby for or against abortions, or to fund any organization that does. As stated in the Cairo Program of Action, in no case should abortion be promoted as a method of family planning. Therefore, implementation of the global strategy needs to adhere to this consensus statement. We understand that workforce shortages often result in added burdens of midwives. The next report should include a holistic strategy to increase the number of well-trained and supported midwives. Finally, we also urge member states to continue to prioritize ending violence against women and girls and against children. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, USA. Peru, you have the floor, and then South Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to thank the Secretary for having prepared the documents, and we think that this strategy is very much in line with the SDG plan of action, and it develops activities to ensure that we achieve these SDGs. We support Canada's statement regarding nutrition for children, and we also believe that coordinated activities of the state for childhood development through the improvement of maternal and neonatal health, the reduction of malnutrition, is all very helpful and interrelated. Now, regarding adolescent health, Peru has made great progress in this area by prioritizing comprehensive plans of action for adolescents. We have public health centers for adolescents as well as private health centers. Now, regarding we also take into account human rights, gender equality, and equality of services in these centers, and therefore we are helping with the development of these adolescents to be very healthy. We would like to make sure that the WHO works with the UNHCR as well to create synergies between these two organizations and working in a very concerted manner to make sure that health is enjoyed all over the world because it is a fundamental right of all human beings. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Peru, South Africa, and then India.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank Secretariat for the reports presented and would like to align with the African statement. South Africa is making substantial progress in implementing programs aimed at ensuring the health and well-being of women, children, and adolescents, and in ensuring access to quality health care, leaving no one behind. As we work towards achieving universal health coverage and strengthening our health systems, this is a priority program for us. South Africa welcomed the Secretariat's work in women, children, and adolescents' health with a focus on early childhood. We would like to emphasize 2 points, however. Firstly, on implementation. Implementation in countries should be strengthened. And secondly, the need for ensuring adequate financing, especially to WHO regional offices and countries, and strengthening support for partners to augment domestic resources. Finally, we thank you, and we will submit our full statement to Secretariat.
Thank you very much, South Africa, India, and then Poland.
India thanks WHO Secretariat for presenting the report on this agenda item. Ensuring health and well-being of women, children, and adolescents, providing them with an enabling transformative environment is a priority issue for India. National health policy gives special emphasis to the health challenges and long-term potential for investing in their health. India will be hosting the Partners Forum in New Delhi in December 2018, along with PMNCH, and we expect this exchange platform to successfully enable the partner organizations and countries in utilizing the evidence and knowledge and work towards the attainment of common goals envisioned in the SDGs. With regard to measurement and definition of skilled health personnel attending births, India recognizes that standardization and refinement of definitions and skill sets is a continuous and ongoing process. India would like to caution against setting very ambitious goals which may jeopardize the planning process in many countries, knowing that availability, skilling, and retention of quality human resources is posing great challenges to countries. Member states should be able to decide on the basic minimum competencies of the healthcare providers, taking the local context and challenges into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Poland and then Hungary. Poland, you have the floor. Can you use the mic, please?
Yes. It's working, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor, and I'll try to be brief. Poland wishes to thank the Secretariat for the report on early childhood development. We agree with the identified actions needed to support the harmonious physical, mental, intellectual, and emotional development of children from the very first days of life. However, we believe that the part of the report concerning directly early childhood development could have been more elaborated and propose more guidance on suggested actions. We believe that coordination actions involving various sectors that are key are the key to facilitating the achievement by children their full potential. We highlight here such areas like health, education, social support, and combating violence. We also support what was said by Kazakhstan, Slovakia, and the USA on the role of the family in proper social and emotional development of children. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Hungary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Hungary thanks for the WHO for putting the attention this year on early childhood development. The Hungarian government attaches high priority to this issue. Therefore, an intersectorial early childhood intervention program has been launched to support the improvement of the efficiency of the provision of services, to define common child paths in the system with adequate regulations, necessary protocols from the pregnancy through the perinatal period and the development phase after the birth until the time of entry into the elementary education. The program covers all the players taking part in the service provision and also aims to help parents in improving their abilities and supporting them to be more competent and aware in their parental role. The main elements of this program have been introduced to the member states of the WHO European region during the past regional committee meeting held in September in Budapest. However, as the report states, nearly half of the children in low and middle-income countries are at risk of not attaining their full development potential. Hungary, therefore, remains strongly committed to the improvement of women's, children's, and adolescents' health, furthermore to the implementation of the global strategy in line with the SDG goals, and Resolution WHA 69.2, which invites member states to commit in accordance with their national plans and priorities to implementing the global strategy. Correct and timely interventions have an essential influence on the survival and the quality of life of the child and later the adult. In this context, breastfeeding and WHO-led baby-friendly hospital initiative have been advocated strongly in Hungary, and we could see this more highlighted in the report. Hungary also welcomes the WHO-initiated Nurturing Care Framework and the recently launched online consultation within that, and is happy to take part in the consultation process. Thank you.
Thank you. We do not see any more member states, so we'll move to observers, and I'll request Holy See.
I think Turkey is just coming.
The Holy See delegation shares many of the concerns and observations considered in the report of the Director General. Our delegation is concerned, however, about the reference to WHO's engagement, together with other UN departments and programs, in the launch of an open access global abortion policies database. The latter is described in a WHO statement of 23 June 2017 as aiming, I quote, to promote greater transparency of abortion laws and policies, as well as to improve countries' accountability for the protection of women and girls' health and human rights, end of quote. The Holy See does not endorse any form of legislation which gives legal recognition to abortion, and thus strongly objects to efforts by UN specialized agencies to promote national legislation that permits the taking of a child's life while still in utero. Moreover, the Holy See cannot accept a claim that promotion of so-called safe abortion is a means to protect the human rights of women and girls, when in fact abortion denies the child in utero his or her most basic right to life itself. As Pope Francis has maintained, I quote, human life is a sacred and inviolable. Every civil right rests on the recognition of the first and fundamental right, that of life, which is not subordinate to any condition, be it quantitative, economic, or least of all, ideological. End of quote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I would request Turkey to take the floor, followed by Palestine.
Thank you very much. We commend Secretariat for this very valuable and informational report. But the report puts a correct emphasis on the importance of nurturing care for the child, for children development, but more or less underestimates the role of thriving in a family. We just want to echo Kazakhstan, Slovenia, USA, Poland, and others if I missed. And once Secretariat revised the document in this manner and give due importance of being a part of family for the early childhood development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Turkey. Palestine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. A very good morning to everyone. Palestine aligned itself with the statement of Emerald delivered by Bahrain. Palestine appreciates the UN support of early childhood development by improving health, especially mental health programs for women and children. In Palestine, we have a national strategy of early childhood development led by the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Social Development. Together with several UN agencies like UNRWA and UNICEF and others, and other partners to support planning and policy for a more comprehensive and equitable provision of early childhood development in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. We encourage WHO to strengthen its programs and partnership in the occupied Palestinian territory. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Palestine. We move on to IGOs and UNFPA. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. UNFPA warmly welcomes the report on the Global Strategy for Women's, Children's and Adolescents' Health and has contributed to the implementation of this strategy over the past 8 years. It's been a strong tool for maintaining momentum, aligning disparate strategies and strengthening collaboration across this field of work. We are specifically excited about the action that's being taken on strengthening data and indicators and well aware of all said situations where the number of skilled birth attendants has increased, but without effect on maternal and newborn mortality. The ongoing update of the definition of skilled health personnel is aimed at changing that by clearly outlining the competencies skilled maternal and newborn care providers need to possess in order to be counted as skills. With these competencies and providers identified, it will be possible to clarify the roles of others, such as community health workers, recognizing their contribution and support to reducing maternal mortality and morbidity. In addition, education, regulation and effective deployment can be better tailored to local need, which will make health systems more efficient. This work reaches across a range of sectors, including employment, education, health workforce development, and strengthening, and we look forward to working together on this exciting agenda. We appreciate the establishment of the Global Abortion Policies Database and the fact that it also includes country profiles and UN treaty body observations, and as a core member of the Global Programme on Cervical Cancer Prevention and Control, we're pleased to be deeply involved in sharpening the budding plans for 2018 and 2019 to give this disease the additional attention and support it deserves. We're excited by the few lines on the Framework Cooperation Agreement on the Health and Human Rights of Women. However, we urge WHO to open those discussions to a wider group of agencies so as to ensure that all capacities and funds are aligned under this agenda and can work together effectively for the largest impact possible. And finally, our long-standing...
Thank you, UNFPA. We'll move on to Gavi, and you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, is fully supportive of and engages closely with the Every Woman, Every Child strategy. Formative experiences of newborns and young children coming from nurturing care and the fundamental importance of the first 1,000 days of life. Immunisation plays a critical role in ensuring children are able to make the best start in life. And we note that at present DTP coverage is up to 86%, with no significant difference between boys and girls, and immunisation averts 2 to 3 million deaths a year. More than 2/3 of low and middle income countries have now introduced pneumococcal vaccine, and over half have the rotavirus vaccine, which will save children's lives from deadly pneumonia and diarrhoea. So with this in mind, we suggest a stronger articulation of the role of immunisation, especially within the first 1,000 days of the life course, and how that relates to the Survive, Thrive and Transform vision. And specifically, we ask for 3 points in the language. One is to mention immunisation as a high-impact intervention for child health and development, especially in the first 1,000 days of life. Secondly, that vaccinated children have stronger cognitive and physical development with a positive impact on educational achievements and long-term social and economic development. And lastly, that vaccines against cervical cancer and rubella have significant social and economic benefits. They play a transformative role in women's health empowerment and the realisation of rights. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gavi. We move on to non-state actors, and I have a list of 12 with me. May I remind all the speakers to restrict to the allocated time of 2 minutes. Better if they can post their detailed interventions on the email address and only address the very important earth-shaking points which you have to bring in. So thank you very much. We would hope that you would take our humble suggestion. I'll start the floor with the International Pharmaceutical Federation. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the International Pharmaceutical Federation, which represents over 4 million pharmacists worldwide. We applaud the WHO for its leadership in introducing new data and initiatives in this area. FIP has called on its national associations to take even more active role in supporting good health in women, children, and adolescents. They adopted FIP policy on the effective contribution of pharmacists in improving maternal, newborn, and child health. Our policy document highlights that when pharmacists are able to work within the full scope of pharmacy services in their country, they improve health outcomes for women and children. Examples of pharmacist-led initiatives targeting women include medication review during pregnancy in Germany, screening for breast cancer in Jordan, and supplementation programs to prevent maternal anemia in Tanzania. Under point 4 of the Secretariat's report, we bring to attention the value of pharmacists in supplying emergency contraception over the counter, as well as advising on general contraception. We also note the value of pharmacists around point 21 in promoting breastfeeding to mothers. Last year, FIP set up a working group dedicated to women in their role as informal caregivers and in ensuring the responsible use of medicines. Women, more often than not, assume responsibility for the care of children and family members. Pharmacists, as easily accessible and approachable health professionals, empower women to make informed and evidence-based decisions on their own health, as well as that of their families. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. International Federation of Medical Students Association.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. As future healthcare professionals, we advocate for the right of every child and adolescent to receive the services and resources necessary for their optimal growth. Moreover, we strongly acknowledge and uphold the right of every person to access sexual and reproductive health services, including maternal care, family planning, and safe and legal abortion. We recognize that several existing barriers limit the proper development of children and adolescents and also hinder access to aforementioned services. Even with overcoming legal barriers, others, such as administrative and financial, still persist. IFMSA provides its members with capacity-building opportunities, such as comprehensive sexuality education and access to safe abortion trainings, to ensure improved competency in these areas. In order to address the lack of formal academic education concerning these essential topics and equip the future healthcare providers with the knowledge and skills they need to ensure the well-being of adolescents and women. Therefore, we urge member states to recognize the need for medical students to receive more equitable training on women's, children's, and adolescents' health issues worldwide, strive for universal access to sexual and reproductive health care, including safe and legal abortion, as well as recognize and overcome the negative impact stigma has on the health outcomes of all individuals. Recognize the invaluable position medical and health students are placed in as the future of the health workforce to champion these vital health issues. It is only by taking coordinated steps, putting women, adolescents, and youth at the center and holding relevant stakeholders accountable that we can truly push forward the goals set in the global strategy and ensure well-being and health at all stages of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Save the Children, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Save the Children acknowledges the recent progress made by countries in improving the health of women, children, and adolescents, including a reduction by half in under 5 mortality between 1990 and 2016. However, we are concerned with the increasing proportion of neonatal deaths in the total burden of under 5 mortality, now at 46%, according to a 2017 report released by UNICEF and WHO. 2 of the 3 leading causes of death in children under 5 worldwide now take place in the neonatal period. They are complications from prematurity and birth complications. Pneumonia is the other top leading cause of death in children. Every year, it kills an estimated 900,000 children under the age of 5. Save the Children is seeking allies to save the lives of 5 million children by 2030. We call on WHO member states to join us by supporting the development and delivery of pneumonia action plans integrated with nutrition plans in high-burden countries. Finally, Save the Children strongly supports the development of the Nurturing Care Framework for early childhood development, and in our view, the framework should include guidance on specific strategies for families in adversity, prevention of violence by and among caregivers, and humanitarian settings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Medicines for Malaria Venture. You have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Chair and delegates, on behalf of Medicines for Malaria Venture, MMV, and Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative, DNDI, I wish to thank you for this opportunity to comment on the agenda item 4.3 on early childhood development. As the report of the WHO Director General highlights, the mortality of children under 5 has been halved during the past 2 decades. This achievement is also due to progress in the fight against deadly diseases affecting these children, more effective medicines, and a continued effort to ensure better access to these medicines. We must persist in this effort and continue to develop better pediatric treatments for HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, as well as for neglected tropical diseases such as leishmaniasis, the Chagas disease, and sleeping sickness. Pediatric treatments are an essential part of a comprehensive and impactful approach to children's health. When medicines developed for adults are administered to children, as still happens, and even at reduced doses, this can result in side effects, underdosing, overdosing. It is detrimental to children's health and significantly increases the risk of developing resistance. MMV and the NDI welcome the progress made by WHO in developing a global framework on nurturing care for early childhood development. We hope that this draft framework will still develop and also emphasize the urgent need for research and development, access to and uptake of child-friendly medicines in line with the 2007 WHO guidelines on safety of medicines used in children and in the context of scaled-up action for better diagnosis and integrated community case management of child health. Thank you.
Thank you. International Lactation Consultant Association, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The International Lactation Consultant Association is a professional member association for international board-certified lactation consultants and healthcare professionals who support breastfeeding families globally. They are specially skilled health professionals for lactation care. They come from fields of nurses, midwives, obstetricians, pediatricians, dietitians, peer group counselors, and researchers, with specific education and internationally recognized certification in skilled lactational care. Optimal breastfeeding could prevent 823,000 annual deaths in children under the age of 5, 13.8% of deaths under 2 years of age. Scientific evidence supports that breastfeeding permanently shapes the course of an individual's life. including morbidity, mortality, overweight, maternal and child diabetes, birth spacing, and maternal breast and ovarian cancer, among others. Breastfeeding is the most cost-effective intervention to improve child survival, health, and development. Breastfeeding is a center of nurturing care in the first 1,000 days, but we note it has been omitted in this report. We must acknowledge that 28 million women and girls live in emergency situations globally. We informed delegates of the October 2017 publication of the Operational Guidance for Emergency Relief Staff and Program Managers on the infant and young children feeding in emergency, produced by the Emergency Nutrition Network supporting breastfeeding. It will soon be available in French and Arabic. As infant and young child nutrition is the field of our collaboration with WHO, we are ready to collaborate on early childhood development with WHO, UNICEF, and others. I thank you.
Thank you. International Planned Parenthood Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for giving IPPF the opportunity to address the Executive Board. We welcome the report on the Global Strategy for Women's, Children's and Adolescents' Health, and in particular its focus on early childhood development, and note the significant achievements that have been made in its implementation, as well as the database on access to safe and legal abortion. We also acknowledge the contribution of civil society organizations, including IPPF member associations, in these achievements. We note with concern the lack of explicit mention of comprehensive sexuality education as an essential element of early childhood development. The new International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education, recently published by UNESCO, supports age-appropriate education of children aged 5 and all young people, especially as they develop through childhood and early adolescence. We look forward to CSE being emphasized in the implementation of early childhood development interventions. We also welcome the recognition of women and girls in humanitarian crises and fragile settings, as these populations are commonly underserved and overlooked. As the report reflects, these women and girls have the greatest unmet need of family planning and often face diverse sexual and reproductive health challenges and are vulnerable to preventable morbidity and mortality. We wish to bring attention to other underserved women and girls, including adolescents and young girls aged 10 to 24, those living in hard-to-reach areas, particularly urban slums and displaced populations, the lowest income quintile, those impacted by disability, gender-based violence, and HIV/AIDS, and who are postpartum. With regards to cervical cancer prevention and control, IPPF supports a comprehensive approach across the life course, including education, vaccination, screening, treatment, and palliative care. We recognize the importance of national ownership and integrated programming, including HPV vaccination and at least one cervical cancer screening tool to increase.
Thank you. World Vision International, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. World Vision International would like to commend WHO and the international community for developing meaningful momentum to adolescent health, and especially welcomes the 2017 Independent Accountability Panel Annual Report on Transformative Accountability for Adolescents. Following on the IAP recommendations, World Vision hopes that from this year forward, youth will be more and better heard, that safe space for adolescent health care provision will be created, and perhaps most importantly, that disaggregated adolescent-specific health data will be collected and monitored. While we build our advocacy for adolescent health care, let us not overlook the critical importance of adolescent nutrition. Much has been achieved in the context of the MDGs on nutrition of children under 5, but it is crucial that the same efforts are continued throughout adolescence, as is an important phase of child development. As we continue to make significant improvement in sexual and reproductive health and rights, let us equally prioritize social drivers for poor SRH outcomes, such as forced and early marriage and sexual violence. It takes the international community to take ownership of these issues if we want to eliminate these practices. In addition to family planning, we must invest in promoting the engagement of community leadership and institutions, as well as the decision makers in families to foster healthy environments for our youth. This year, we can also celebrate the global prioritization of a more holistic early child development. World Vision is committed to supporting the emerging nurturing care framework, and we celebrate its multi-sectoral vision for life in all its fullness for children. World Vision looks forward to contributing with a pragmatic capacity at the front line to measure and monitor early child development. Thank you, Chair.
The Worldwide Hospice Palliative Care Alliance, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We were delighted to hear the Executive Board approve the Sasakawa Prize for Children's Palliative Care Foundation in Costa Rica this morning, and we also thank the Secretariat for the report. However, we reiterate our concern regarding the continued absence of palliative care, including the perinatal, adolescent, and women's palliative care from the report, and request that it be included. I share a message from Sharon Thompson from Ireland. My daughter, Victoria, developed a rare terminal cancer condition at 3 months old. She couldn't be cared for at home because there were few specialized palliative care nurses to help with her care. She died aged 9 months. Sometimes doctors removed her medications against my wishes, and she suffered severe pain. Support was hard to find. I belong to a network of thousands of mothers in Ireland with life-limited children and those who are bereaved. I surveyed 36 mothers and asked, do you feel you can cope at home with your child's condition? 34 mothers out of 36 said no. One asked me not to ask. Because parents have highlighted their plight, there is now one palliative care pediatric consultant for the country, but only a handful of outreach nurses for vast geographical areas. Globally, the situation is tragic. More than 98% of children aged under 15 who die with serious health-related suffering live in low and middle-income countries. We gasp at women giving birth alone, yet still mothers are expected to watch their children die with little or no support. I understand this is a challenging topic, but please do not leave us behind. According to the recent Lancet Commission report on palliative care in UHC, meeting the need for morphine-equivalent medications for children with serious health-related adolescents must be included within WHO and member state strategies. I thank you.
International Baby Food Action Network, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The reproductive rights of women cannot be separated from the rights of the child to the highest attainable standard of health. IPFAN wishes to highlight the critical relationship of the mother-baby dyad and the importance of breastfeeding as the basis of nurture and care to achieve the global strategy goals. This vital relationship is indispensable to optimize the physical and mental health for early child development. The global strategy notes that less than 40% of infants are exclusively breastfed. Considerable efforts are required to address this gap. The threats that undermine breastfeeding persist. The marketing of breast milk substitutes and baby feeding products remain systematic, as demonstrated by IPFAN's global monitoring reports. Much more needs to be done to remove this commercial interference. The regulation, monitoring, and enforcement of the provisions of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes, the WHA resolution is essential to increase breastfeeding practices, decrease the appalling mortality rates associated with the use of BMS and the high breast cancer and other reproductive cancers associated with low breastfeeding rates. Mothers need adequate maternity provisions with paid leave and workplace capacity to maintain breastfeeding throughout early childhood. Breastfeeding must be central to policies and recommendations that are designed to meet the goals of the global strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease, the Union. You have the floor. Last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease advances solutions to public health challenges affecting people living in poverty, including TB. The Union welcomes the initiative led by WHO and UNICEF to redesign child health guidelines, looking into changes required to revise child health policies and programs that will define universal health coverage during the first 18 years of life. This past year saw the first ever systematic review of global childhood TB mortality, which identified an epidemic of childhood TB unfolding in the shadows. An estimated 1 million children fall sick to TB annually. Only 1 in 3 children with TB are diagnosed, and many fewer treated. Without treatment, 22% of children with TB under 15 die, and 44% of children under 5 die. However, 99% of children with TB who receive treatment survive. In redesigning child health guidelines, the Union urges WHO to follow the recommendations laid out in the Roadmap for Childhood Tuberculosis, and, in the absence of diagnostic tools optimized for use among children, to consider the evidence of scaling up clinical approaches to childhood TB diagnosis, such as those implemented in Uganda through Detect Child TB. Guidelines should also reflect the urgent need for children to be included in household contact investigations in cases where adults are diagnosed with TB. The unique needs of infant, children, and adolescents should be given prominence in the program, political declaration, and accountability framework of the upcoming UN high-level meeting on tuberculosis in 2018. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That was the last speaker from non-state actors. We have one more member states which we just wants to intervene. So Panama, looking at a very excellent record of brevity of your statements, we offer you the floor. You have the floor, madam.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to Mr. Chair and to all our colleagues. I apologize for taking the floor so late in the consideration of this item. I will be very brief. I will just refer to one single point. We consider that palliative care has to be taken into account in all plans and strategies aimed at helping women's, children, and adolescents' health throughout the life course. We also believe that we very much echo the other statements made by member states that recognize this strategy as a very positive one, as in terms of helping women's, children, and adolescents' health and childhood development, and this is very much in line with universal health coverage. Thank you.
Thank you, Panama. Now I'll request Dr. Princess Nothemba Nono Samelela, ADG for Family, Women, Children and Adolescent Health, to please take the floor to respond to the member states' comments. And I would propose 5 minutes for your kind self, madam, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity to respond to some of the inputs that have been made by member states. Let me start by thanking members of the Executive Board, member states, and all other partners who have provided much-needed critical inputs into the report that we have provided. Many of the inputs confirm that our collective work in the implementation of the global strategy for women, children, and adolescents' health is generally moving in the right direction, that we are likely to be able to meet some of the targets that are in the strategy, as well as those that are aligned to the SDGs. We have noted some of the most important inputs, especially those that have highlighted critical gaps in the work that we are doing, and we commit to return to member states to provide you with more information, to develop relevant guidelines, and to ensure that those critical gaps you have highlighted are filled and that you are enabled to implement comprehensive programs. I would like to respond to the statement that was made by Tanzania on behalf of the Africa Group. I'd like to affirm that WHO is committed to expand choice and method mix through contraceptive research and development, and to assess the safety and efficacy of new and existing methods. Fertility return is an issue that WHO does take into account when developing recommendations in our guidelines on contraception. It is included when a robust and systematic approach is taken in the development of our guidelines. We go through a process of synthesizing of all of the evidence presented in systematic reviews, and where it's deemed necessary, the expert groups interrogate each specific method. Specifically, WHO has considered the issue of fertility return, especially associated with recommendations with methods such as injectable contraceptives. We want to affirm that in all the guidelines, we continue to emphasize that healthcare providers must provide accurate information, enable those who are seeking commodities to have information that allows them to make the right choice. The guidelines are developed by ourselves, but the labeling of the products is a responsibility that is outside the scope of WHO. We will, however, continue to ensure that the packaged inserts contain the minimum information that is required by the standard setting body within WHO. I would also like to highlight that progress has already been made in some of the areas that were raised in some of the inputs. For example, the Director General and the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights have already signed a Memorandum of Understanding, and we will now move into a process of developing a work plan and to implement so that we ensure that issues of human rights remain front and center in the work that we are doing. I want to conclude by saying that we are committed, we are ready as a team to continue to support member states in the implementation of this global strategy. We remain available to continuously provide you with information and to clarify any issues that arise in the process of your work. I might also add that information relating to countries that are receiving support is available, and those member states that require it will be able to receive it from the team, and it is also available on some of our websites. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your comments and brief. As I see no more comments, I take that the board wishes to take note of the report. This concludes the board's consideration of sub-item 4.3 of its agenda, and we move on to sub-item 4.4. May I request that in order to finish by the promised time, I would need your cooperation to be short and precise, and the precedence of posting your longer statements on the email is very welcome. With this, we would open up the agenda sub-item 4.4, M-Health, the report by the Director General entitled M-Health, Use of Appropriate Digital Technologies for Public Health is contained in document EB 142/20. The board is invited to note this report, and I give the floor to Benin. You have the floor, sir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Benin has the honor to make this statement on behalf of the 47 African states. We would like to congratulate the DG for his report. The use of mobile technologies, which has reached 87% in 2016, is particularly relevant since this is very easy to use, and it's a basis that is generally accepted. In Africa, we have a strategy on cyber health, which has reached many countries and has been introduced in national policies and strategies throughout the world. There's a great extensive use of mobile technologies. Nevertheless, we still have challenges when it comes to health. We're still trying to ensure that this is done in large scale when it comes to health and the effectiveness of being able to assess this in our fields, as well as bringing in ministers of technologies and trying to help states in choosing systems for mobile health. In order to meet these challenges, the countries of the African region are trying to lay stress on multi-sectoral cooperation, in particular the Ministry of Health and those dealing with technologies. The African region approves the priority areas of the WHO here, in particular when it comes to health and attracting other member states to use this in order to ensure that we achieve our objectives of universal health coverage and the relevant SDG. We would call on the DG to collaborate in this together with the relevant ministries of technologies. The African states remain prepared to assist the other member states on this resolution, and our region notes the report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Delegate of Malta, you have the floor, and then Dominican Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Director General, colleagues, good morning. I have the honour to speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states, the candidate countries Montenegro and Albania, the country of the Stabilisation and Association Process and potential candidate Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova and Georgia align themselves to the statement. The EU thanks the Secretariat for this comprehensive report and welcomes the attention brought to this ever more important and innovative area. We should always keep in mind that the final goal is not technological innovation in itself, but the health and well-being of citizens. Digital health can significantly improve the efficiency of health systems. Mobile health, under the broad umbrella of e-health, provides a new interface both for users of health services and health professionals, as stated in the EU Council conclusions dated 8 December 2017. The Council conclusions emphasize the potential of digital technologies and advanced data analytics to contribute to more empowered citizens, better targeted, more integrated and safer health services, as well as to a more efficient use of resources. Still, one has to see e-health as part of the health system as a whole and not the sole or default method of delivering healthcare. Therefore, e-health is a critical component of health reform and of supporting new models of integrated people-centered health services. These new interfaces have the potential for adding new dimensions to and improving the efficiency and quality of the way health services and people interact and increase professionals' access to information, data and exchange, particularly when they work in remote locations. As such, these measures can accelerate progress towards universal health coverage, including access to quality health service worldwide. Data is key. Therefore, digital technologies play a major role in contributing to catalyze and measure progress towards the SDGs. Public health policy should be shaped by reliable and progress-driven data and increasingly take into account the big picture on population health that digital solutions will provide in the future. The Global Observatory for e-health is an important tool in this regard. We welcome the foreseen update of this observatory. However, some challenges still exist, and it is important to make sure that when data sharing, clear rules on access and use of health data for all parties working on e-health are taken into account. This certainly includes issues of data protection, governance, and accountability. Guarantee the balance between innovation, support of an integrated people-centered approach, and commercial interests, also taking into account issues of cybersecurity. Facilitate individuals and international interoperability, which suggests the development of common regulations, policies, and processes. Increase the awareness capacity and trust of member states, and especially healthcare professionals, to implement digital health. To make sure that the different types of service delivery, physical, digital, mobile, interact sufficiently to maximize access, of equality of access to services in a way that meets the needs of the whole population. We support the existing and new priorities for WHO in the area of digital health and the focus on innovation as outlined in the draft GPW. We welcome the collaboration with other UN agencies, including ITU, such as its cross-sectoral focus and other stakeholders. The EU and its member states fully support WHO to invest into this fast-evolving issue, which brings also important economic opportunities. The EU Health Hub project is a good example of the important collaboration between WHO and the EU in this field. Health, as part of digital health, can leverage and increase healthy life outcomes, bringing health services closer to the people and empower health workers as well as their patients. We therefore agree with the call for a forward-looking global strategy on digital health as a background document to have a broader debate on this important matter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Malta. I would request the delegate from Dominican Republic to take the floor, and then Bahrain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Dominican Republic is very aware of the incredible potential that digital health systems and technologies represent to meet the diverse needs of patients and populations. Even if we have come across many different obstacles that have led to the delay of the implementation of mHealth in our country, we can, however, say that we have made a lot of advances in the use of these technologies that help in making sure that the information is available, as well as help us in taking decisions in accordance with Agenda 2030. All of these initiatives that have been put forward to the Secretary. We would just like to use this few minutes to tell you that in page 5 of the document EB 142/20, in the version in Spanish, the term tuberculous patient should be changed to the term patient suffering from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a mycobacterium that leads to the development of this illness, and the use of the word tuberculous in the Dominican Republic has a discriminatory connotation. In many different countries around the world, especially even in the 21st century, there still subsist degrees of stigmatization against people suffering from tuberculosis. And we believe that the document of the WHO should not reinforce this discrimination. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam. Bahrain, you have the floor, and then Brazil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have taken note of the report on mHealth that was submitted by the Director General on the mobile health technologies. The use of digital technologies are very useful for health, and of course this is a very comprehensive part of digital health as a whole. In Bahrain, we have tried to implement a national health system for this mobile health digital technologies, and we have an electronic file, an electronic medical record for all citizens of Bahrain, and that links together all hospitals and primary health care centers together. There is an electronic medical file for all citizens. We have also set up a mobile wireless network for example, genetic illnesses, and that have to be followed up on. And in this file that is made available electronically, this is also linked to a system that measures how these cases are being treated to look at the efficiency of emergency health care services. Therefore, we measure the time that it takes for the patient to be treated and to see a doctor. We also provide the possibility of making medical appointments through the use of these digital applications. We therefore would like to support this item, and we think that it helps improve health. We would like to make sure that mHealth is used to attain universal health coverage, and it definitely helps with the attainment of SDGs. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I would now request Brazil to take the floor, and then New Zealand.
Thank you, Chair. Let me first thank the Director General for the report on this issue. It's undoubted that digital technologies are becoming an important resource for health services delivered in public health. In this context, mHealth is playing an increasing role for a broad reach and ease of use of those technologies. Our work should make applications for health contribute to improve or build strong and efficient health systems. Brazil also highlights the need of careful attention to the management of users' private information in digital platforms to protect the right to privacy and avoid commercial use of such data. An exercise of standardization and promotion of digital health must include this dimension. We welcome the efforts made by India to propose a draft resolution to be further discussed in the run-up to the next assembly. Future resolution must seek to propose a clear and streamlined way forward in line with WHO mandates. It should also include important dimensions for mHealth, such as nutrition and physical activity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. New Zealand, you have the floor, sir, to be followed by Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We consider the use of digital technologies as essential for the strategic priorities of the GPW to be realised. They can be used to change how patients access healthcare and information and how health services are provided and staffed. There are already models delivering primary healthcare through mHealth initiatives that involve use of a secure e-health portal and health professional triage by video calling before physically accessing a healthcare professional in at least one country, one member state. We're also aware that exploration of delivering primary healthcare through mHealth is occurring in other regions and has been actively piloted. To learn from these initiatives will require working with non-state actors and drawing on global expertise and innovation in the private sector. The solutions to providing privacy and data security already exist. It's more about how we standardise this and rapidly adopt them that really matters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sri Lanka and then Iraq.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The experience of digital healthcare, it has shown that it has a great potential to increase the access, coverage, quality and safety of service delivery while reducing the cost of care. Sri Lanka is committed to ensure that every citizen will have an electronic health record by the year 2025. With this landmark policy, electronic health record will be the foundation for personalized medicine in our country. In this regard, Sri Lanka is glad to learn from the experiences and best practices from other countries that have already developed and deployed electronic health record systems. Use of mHealth for healthcare is becoming increasingly popular, and it has been proved that mHealth will have a significant influence on the way of delivering health services, especially the primary care services. Further, mobile health apps are also becoming popular among people as never before in the history. We endorse the Director General report on the mHealth and would like to strengthen the need to have a mechanism at country level to regulate health apps, which are bound to have a significant impact on people's health in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Lanka. Honourable Delegate from Iraq and then Zambia.
We will support the documents which has been already submitted, and here we want to stress on the role of the WHO for the following points. The first, intra-regional and inter-regional cooperations and coordination for leveraging that issue. Secondly, strengthening the electronic governance at country level. Thirdly, incorporating that particularly within GBW 13. Fourthly, progress reporting for that ought to be adopted with regular and sustainable development. Fifthly, introducing that within primary health care concept at all levels of presentation of health care. And sixthly, stepwise approach with monitoring and evaluation ought to be contemplated. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, sir. Zambia, you have the floor, and then Japan.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
the Republic of Zambia aligns itself with the statement made by Benin on Agenda Item 4.4 and welcomes the report by the Director General on the use of appropriate digital technologies for public health, particularly mobile wireless technologies, mHealth. We will upload our full statement on the website. However, we want to emphasize that when considering such innovations, country-level needs and objectives should always be considered. In addition, investments in digital technologies should not disadvantage the traditional national health information architecture, but rather improve such platforms. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam. Japan and then Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. We welcome the Secretariat's paper on this subject. Wider and wiser use of mHealth has benefits to enhance individual health, UHC, and developing public health policy. We have no problem to note this report, but we would like to mention 2 points. First, in this rapidly advancing area, collaboration with ITU is important. However, it is not enough. We should work more strategically with private sectors, but its reference is written only in paragraph 6, lack of multi-sectoral approach within government. We think that promoting public-private partnership adequately should be included in one of the priority areas. We need to enhance this aspect. Second, the paper primarily focuses on individual health, but the benefits of wider public health should be further stressed. For example, application of mHealth for monitoring the SDG indicators, future medical need projection through collected individual information, and possible integration with long-term care and welfare information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Japan. Mexico, you have the floor, and then Philippines.
Gracias. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mobile technologies have the potential to help providing healthcare services, especially in the areas of prevention and promotion of health. To do so, it is advisable that the applications fall under a regulatory framework that would ensure confidentiality, quality, and security of its data, and that this be integrated into the healthcare systems of each country. Mexico has been using digital technologies to help in healthcare services in many different fields, and amongst which we would like to underscore number 1, the sending of messages through mobile telephones and through social networks to reinforce preventive programs. We have also been using these to treat and care for patients, as well as to ensure that changes are made in lifestyle choices. Number 2, the development of mobile applications to prevent and manage excess weight, obesity, and diabetes, including the controlling of sales and distribution of food products and beverages in schools. Mexico is more than ready to share our experience with the WHO in this very promising field that is being fleshed out at the moment. Thank you.
Philippines, you have the floor, to be followed by Pakistan.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Secretariat for its work and notes this evaluation report. Noting greater mobile connections among the national population, we agree that there's a need to capitalize on information and communication technologies and other digital technologies for public health development. We thus support initiatives on digital health and looks forward to specific interventions to streamline and address issues on accountability, patients' rights, electronic mobile health data, privacy and data protection, as well as security, among others. Thank you, Chair.
Pakistan and then Thailand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pakistan notes and appreciates the report on agenda item EB 4.4 of the Secretariat. Pakistan would like to put up 2 suggestions regarding mHealth needing attention, which are regulations and developing standard protocols to guide and govern rising trends of mHealth, thus ensuring privacy, security, and confidentiality of personnel and health record of health consumers, both in public and private sector. Number 2, increasing the capacity of member states to implement mHealth with the support of WHO and partners. This would play a major role in increasing access to quality health services, thus contributing to better health outcomes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pakistan. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
Innovations in digital health remind us that we live in an interconnected world. To maximize the benefit of digital health, Thailand would highlight three key issues. First, the influxes of information into digital users with limited ability to scrutinize the accuracy is very dangerous and needs stronger regulation. Second, we should learn from different partners. For example, we social scientists and community help us to understand more on patient behavior. Private sector allows us to get new technologies and marketing strategies. Third, digital health can move healthcare close to the patients as well as strengthen health information system. Finally, Chair, our most concern is that digital health may result in high-tech but low touch, which will finally result in mechanical and not humanized healthcare. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Thailand. We'll move on to non-EB members. And India, you have the floor, to be followed by USA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. India would like to thank WHO Secretariat for incorporating the subject of mHealth in the agenda. We would like to thank all member states, particularly Philippines, Brazil, and Thailand, for their support to India in bringing mHealth for formal discussion at the WHO governing bodies. Mr. Chair, India is embarking on an ambitious digital health agenda in 2018. In March, India would systematically implement a nationwide near real-time integrated public health surveillance system to monitor prioritized health conditions of over 1 billion citizens. We also would like to thank WHO for their assistance in this regard. For public health emergency response readiness, India is in the process of implementing an innovative, geotagged, disease-specific person-level data combined with context-specific Earth observation and GIS data. In addition, India is working towards access to portable electronic medical records to all citizens using unique identifiers and informatics standards for interoperability. India greatly values the scope of mHealth as part of the larger digital health ecosystem and recognizes its potential towards achieving the SDG Goal 3.8 on increasing access to quality health services. However, India notes that mHealth is just a subset of broader digital health efforts of India. India requests the Secretariat to produce a supplemental and separate document for WHO that clearly articulates the digital technologies with specific references to all aspects of health informatics system, innovative electronic medical devices, diagnostic equipments, and ensure that all terminologies are clearly defined. India proposes WHO to develop a global strategy on digital health, which will mainstream digital health in the SDG agenda. India has initiated a member state-driven process in order to arrive at a consensus resolution on appropriate use of digital technologies in public health. We are hopeful that member states will join our endeavor by providing constructive inputs, which will help in maturing the text of resolution on digital health. Thank you.
Thank you, India. USA and then Kenya.
To overcome challenges of fragmentation and duplication of digital health systems around the world, greater coordination is needed, including among public and private funders. We suggest the following 5 recommendations. First, that countries create and support the implementation of a digital health strategy, reflecting priorities identified in the country's national health strategy. Second, financiers align their efforts on digital health with the national digital health strategy. Where country-focused digital health strategies do not yet exist, their development should be prioritized. Third, that countries strengthen a digital health enabling environment, including support for capacity building and governance with a focus on privacy, accessibility, and use of data and data systems. Fourth, that investments align with a country's progression along the digital health continuum, starting with moving from paper to digital, accumulating with a country's transition to independent management of digital health technologies. And fifth, that digital health can be a powerful tool for public health surveillance. It is important to understand a host nation's infrastructure and capacity to implement effectively and manage these technologies, and to use the data that they produce. mHealth should be used appropriately depending on the context of an emergency, noting that in some situations, use of mobile technologies could put healthcare workers at increased risk due to security issues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, USA, Kenya, and then Paraguay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Kenyan delegation appreciates the report from the Secretariat on mHealth, use of mobile wireless technologies for public health. Kenya would like also to associate her statement with that made by Benin on behalf of the African group. Kenya continues to experience a mobile technology revolution, and we appreciate that digital technologies are becoming an important resource for health services delivery and public health. We believe that mHealth continues to play a key role in efforts to achieve universal health coverage, the SDGs, as well as health objectives as a key enabler and driver of improved health outcomes. Kenya has used mobile health solutions in reproductive, maternal and child health programs, health promotion, continuous medical education for health workers, and in health commodity management. We support the development of platforms for sharing evidence, experience, and good practices in mHealth implementation as a way of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We request the Secretariat to continue to work with relevant stakeholders in supporting Member States to increase their capacity to adopt and implement digital health technologies. We also request the Secretariat to provide guidance and assessment frameworks on mHealth and digital innovations to assist countries in identification and evaluation of digital solutions to support investment decision-making. We look forward to working with other Member States in the preparation of a resolution on this item for consideration by the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Paraguay, followed by Poland.
Gracias, señor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The delegation from Paraguay would like to thank the Director General for producing this report on mHealth, and we believe that the Executive Board is taking into consideration this item, which is extremely important and also helps us attain the SDGs. Now, the penetration of internet in Paraguay will have an increase of 22 points in 2018, which represents that 70% of the Paraguayan population is connected to the internet, and 95% are already connected with mobile phones. And this mHealth is a huge commitment in our health, and we are undertaking activities to make sure that there are mHealth applications for the population. We also have remote care systems in place. Mobile technologies and mHealth technologies allow us to have a better access to treatment, reducing cost, but also reducing the delays when it comes to accessing treatment. And this allows us to implement resilient and sustainable health systems. The international community, as well as international organizations of the United Nations, including the WHO, must continue in boosting technological support and coordination, especially in least developed countries and in SIDS countries. Now, pertaining to mHealth, the state of Paraguay has been implementing many multi-sectorial activities, such as the World Summit of IT. We also have ITC conferences that include how we can use digital health technologies in our country. The Ministry for Health in Paraguay is also implementing plans to improve the use of these technologies, and we are trying to promote the use of these in public and private healthcare centers. Our government sees this project as a very good example of international cooperation, and we think that there has to be more participation on this item within the WHO. Thank you.
Thank you, Paraguay. Poland, you have the floor, and then Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Chair. Poland takes note of the report and aligns itself with the EU statement. Poland considers development of digital technologies and mHealth solutions a relevant and significant element of the healthcare provision. E-health and mHealth defined as its building block have been high on the agenda of the Polish Ministry of Health. Recently, Poland has developed and adopted the e-health strategy, and in order to implement it, the action plan in line with the ITU and WHO e-health strategy toolkit is being developed. It is to be published soon. Poland stresses the importance of evidence-based e-health standards and norm setting. At the same time, we underline the relevance of synchronizing the actions in this area with other efforts in order to reach interoperability and synergy. In order to save time, we will provide more detailed comments to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland, Indonesia, and then Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia population has been rapidly adopting personal digital technology, especially through the use of smartphone that has lasting effect on their lifestyle. In fact, Indonesia is home to the largest user in digital media in ASEAN. In this regard, we are of the view that immediately adopting this technology for the benefit of the society is of utmost importance. For example, to ensure excellent health services and to influence the society to adopt a healthy and preventive lifestyle. We highly appreciate the WHO's effort to date in initiating international collaboration with organizations such as the ITU, developing mobile application for health intervention, and supporting development of this intervention for the member state in hopes that moving forward, the world population could be provided with an effective, affordable, accessible mHealth. Therefore, Indonesia wishes to extend its support for the draft resolution put forward by India on the use of the appropriate digital technologies for public health and re-emphasize the importance of data confidentially in the development of such as technology. Thank you.
Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Republic of Korea welcomes the report on mHealth. Republic of Korea has been actively practicing e-health, particularly through the use of mobile technology in the areas of NCDs, prevention and treatment, as well as in the exchange of information between hospitals and public health facilities. We would like to share the following 3 comments on the proposal resolution circulated before the EB. First, the definition and scope of data sharing are rather unclear and need further elaboration. Second, while personal information protection is discussed in Section 2, request the Director General Number 9, there is no mention of it in Section 1, urge member states. It would be appropriate to include personal information protection in Section 1, urge member states for the purpose of achieving balance. And third, the role and participation modes of the private sector providers should be further explained in the documents related to the implementation of FENSA. The Republic of Korea will actively participate in the process of developing the draft resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Republic of Korea. I would give the floor now to ITU.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to applaud and appreciate WHO's achievement on promoting global health over the recent decades. The International Telecommunication Union is the United Nations Specialized Agency for Information Communication Technologies. Over the recent decade, ICT achieved marvelous developments worldwide. Today, there are more mobile subscriptions than world population, and about 4 billion people already connected online. We are very proud of our collaboration with WHO that goes back to many years, where we have worked in many areas. Together, we have engaged with some countries to develop national e-health strategies. We have collaborated with countries initiated several mobile health initiatives with private sector to use mobile for prevention and control of non-communicable diseases and supported programs for tobacco cessation, among others. In 2016, we have collaboratively organized a high-level event on digital health during the World Health Assembly that brought health and ICT ministers to dialogue to foster cross-sectoral collaboration. Last year, ITU organized World Telecommunication Development Conference in October at Buenos Aires, Argentina. WTDC 17 provided an unique opportunity to discuss the future of the telecommunication and information and communication technology sector and its contribution to SDGs. The keynote statement from Dr. Tedros, Director General of WHO, was provided at a plenary session by WHO representative in Buenos Aires. I would like to use this opportunity to strengthen our commitment to continue to work closely with WHO and to enhance our collaboration for a wider impact of ICT on e-health outcome and to accelerate the achievement of SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we move on to non-state actors. And the first on the list is the International Federation of Medical Students Association.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, today, 6 out of the world's 7 billion people have access to a mobile phone. In fact, in many countries, people are more likely to have a mobile phone than access to a toilet, to clean water, a bank account, or electricity. Mobile technology has penetrated our most remote communities, the very places most difficult to access, with the least resources and often most in need of help. Mobile technology is already advancing safer and more accessible healthcare by increasing disease surveillance and data collection, improving patient, family, and community engagement, and expanding health coverage to areas previously unreachable. Let us build upon platforms of connectivity, communication, and access for better healthcare. IFMSA is committed to collaborating with WHO in mHealth and strategy and digital health innovation. We call upon the WHO and its member states to prioritize funding to develop mobile-based solutions to global health problems and building platforms for scalable evidence-based solutions, establish an mHealth strategy for an integrated approach to creating safe standards sharing and utilizing best mHealth practices, and engage youth in mHealth strategy. Throughout history, youth have had a special affinity to the adoption, utilization, and invention of new technology. They offer refreshing and innovative ideas, reflecting the needs and concerns of future generations. Therefore, ensuring youth participation in mHealth will not only help us to reach our full potential, but also positively contributes to the welfare of communities and nations. Thank you.
Thank you. World Medical Association, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, distinguished delegates, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the World Medical Association, which represents over 9 million physicians around the world. The WMA welcomes the Director General reports on mHealth. We acknowledge that mHealth has the potential to supplement and further develop existing healthcare services and facilitate access to healthcare, improve patient self-management, enable electronic interactions between patients and their physicians. Technological development and their increasing affordability led to an exponential increase in the number and variety of mHealth services in use developed and developing countries. At the same time, this rapidly evolving sector remains largely unregulated and could have potential safety and quality and privacy implications. In order to still deliver high quality of care, it is at most important to put an emphasis on education of health professionals, especially in regard to shortage of health professionals. As physicians, we would like to stress the following. The WHO and member nations need to ensure that there are sufficient policy and safeguards to regulate and secure the collection, storage, protection, and processing of data of mHealth users and assure the privacy and confidentiality rights of them. We would like to refer to the WMA Declaration of Taipei on health data and biobanks. mHealth technologies used for services which require medical expertise of physicians, such as SMS services providing advice to pregnant women, or wearable sensors to monitor chronic diseases, such as diabetes, frequently meets the definition of medical device and should be subject to risk-based oversight and regulation with all its implications. The WMA enjoins the WHO to note the significant regional and demographic variations.
World Dental Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of FDI World Dental Federation, supported by the World Health Professions Alliance, representing over 31 million nurses, pharmacists, physical therapists, dentists, and physicians in over 130 countries. The global shortage of trained healthcare professionals is estimated at 17.4 million. And if this trend continues, it may result in a shortfall of 18 million healthcare professionals by 2030. Alarmingly, the health workforce deficit disproportionately affects the Southeast Asia and African regions at 6.9 million and 4.2 million respectively. The shortage will have a long-lasting impact for billions of people globally. mHealth is one solution that can make a significant difference in bridging the human resource gap in the healthcare sector. We recognise the tremendous potential of mHealth to deliver healthcare to patients and technical support to healthcare professionals. We agree with the Secretariat's report that the spread of digital technologies and global interconnectedness has a significant potential to accelerate Member States' progress towards achieving universal health coverage, including ensuring access to quality health services. Although mHealth promises to greatly improve access to and efficiency of healthcare, we believe that its success ultimately depends on the quality of care delivered by healthcare professionals. To improve healthcare outcomes, it is imperative for countries implementing mHealth to understand the fundamental education and training needs of healthcare professionals and the privacy and confidentiality rights of patients for their health data. We therefore welcome WHO's new priorities in Clause 13 for mHealth, specifically to support building capacity and empowering healthcare professionals. We urge countries to invest robustly in the education and training of healthcare professionals and increase mHealth uptake. Thank you.
Thank you. International Pharmaceutical Students Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. The International Pharmaceutical Students Federation is the voice of over 350,000 pharmacy students and recent graduates in 88 different countries worldwide. IPSF supports the outlined recommendations in progressing mHealth with the primary objectives of improving coverage of healthcare and access to health information. As youth, we deem it especially important to embrace and advocate for these technologies. The potential benefits of modern mobile technology solutions cannot be ignored. Several studies have shown that patients who use these technologies are more actively engaged in their personal health care. This may result in improved adherence to medical therapy, regular health checkups, and beneficial lifestyle changes. Medication adherence, in particular, has been reported to improve through mHealth, especially in patients with complex therapies. The increasing number of technology ownership, especially in low-income countries and low-middle-income countries, likewise support this premise. IPSF firmly believes, however, that there are several important aspects to consider in the implementation of mHealth. Namely, the data provided to patients needs strict verification from healthcare professionals to ensure efficient and safe care delivery. As such, technology can only complement traditional care through the close involvement of pharmacists and other healthcare professionals in both development and oversight. In addition, miscommunication must be minimized by using appropriate, easy-to-understand language. In conclusion, IPSF highlights the importance of appropriately educating healthcare students of the use of mHealth, as current curricula rarely include these topics in pharmaceutical studies. With a paradigm shift in care delivery, future health workers' competencies must not fall behind. For a successful implementation of the proposed priority areas, a collaborative efforts between Member States and WHO will be crucial. Together, with an increased alignment of existing healthcare practices in different countries, the mutual integration of and mHealth platforms is vital to the global health community. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And can we ensure that the traffic light system is on with every speaker? We move on to World Vision International.
Thank you, Chair. World Vision would like to commend the briefing note for this session in its entirety. We greatly appreciate, based on our own experience, both the opportunities and the challenges noted. Concerning the challenges of multiplicity and duplication of efforts, as well as failure to achieve sustainable scale, we call for greater WHO and member state leadership for collective stakeholder action at country level. World Vision's experience in Sierra Leone, for example, shows that state, private sector, UN, and civil society actors are committed to working together on shared objectives and solutions when effective coordination is in place. Amongst the outstanding opportunities outlined in the briefing note, World Vision would like to see inclusion of the scale-up of proven digital applications such as Frontline SMS, Rapid FTR, and Rapid SMS for child protection purposes. The use of mHealth systems should be included in the WHO Global Plan of Action to strengthen the role of the health systems addressing interpersonal violence. As the utilization of digital technology increases, effectively expanding data collection, we must ensure the security of the data, data privacy, principles of informed consent, and responsible utilization. All countries can benefit from the development of recommended protocols and minimum standards in this regard. World Vision looks forward to the expanding power of digital technology to achieve universal health care and to serve the most vulnerable in the most fragile context. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. May I request New Zealand to take the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's really just 2 points, is that we're now at 20 plus interventions all supporting a noting paper. Which is of concern given the time limits that we all have. And 2, as a very, very simple way to potentially speed up this and further items, can I ask the non-state actors not to tell us who they are? We've been sitting here for 5 days with them telling us who they are and what they represent. We know this. Please just cut to the chase. It will actually save maybe as much as a minute in every presentation that's given. Thank you.
The board notes with concern your suggestion, but we're only left with one non-state actor for this session. So in order to ensure equity, we will ask them to state who they are. Medicus Mundi International, you have the floor. And you can state who you are.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. To MMI, the statement is supported by PHM. WHO's strategy on mHealth should rely on strong national healthcare systems. mHealth should not be seen as a substitute for strong primary care-based services on the ground. Neither should it be viewed as a cost-cutting measure where services by trained health workers are replaced by reliance on mHealth. EB 142/20 notes that in many countries, people are more likely to have access to a mobile telephone than to clean water, a bank account, or electricity. This is not just an opportunity. It is also indicative of a distorted paradigm of development. We would also like to share our concern that EB 142/20 envisages a close partnership with ITU. ITU's partners include a range of private actors who could have a potential conflict of interest as regards work on mHealth. mHealth also includes collection of personal data and its storage in digital form. Issues related to data privacy are a concern that needs to be addressed. Digital technologies have the potential to transform many fields of human activity, including healthcare. However, their impact can be predictable and beneficial only if there is a strong public control on the use of such technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. And this ends the list of speakers which we have today. I'll request Dr. Ed Kelly, Director, to please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And with regards to New Zealand's comments, I'll be very brief. On behalf of the Assistant Director General for UHC and Health Systems and the Secretariat team on Digital Health, which actually is coordinated with our group in Health Systems, but it spans at least 5 separate clusters. I would thank member states for their detailed comments on the current report on mHealth, the use of digital technologies for public health. And I would also make particular thanks for the comments from our non-state actor colleagues and other UN partners with whom we work very closely, especially ITU, who are so key to this discussion. As we've discussed, I personally have discussed several times with DG and with you all before, we as member states and WHO, it's very clear we will never walk or drive to every village and every household to achieve the lofty goal of UHC. We must find ways to leverage digital technologies more robustly to achieve UHC. This report in the agenda item envisioned by India and the other supporting member states places the digital health agenda squarely within the wider effort of delivering integrated people-centered health services per the WHO framework on this topic approved 2 years ago at the World Health Assembly. In particular, just to note the useful comments from Benin on behalf of the African region regarding the regional strategy on this topic, an extremely important document along with other regional guidance. We also note the comments for strengthening the discussion of engagement of the private sector and ensuring that the placement of digital health within people-centered services across the care continuum, particularly including prevention and public health, are also noted. And we will examine how to strengthen these and several other areas in the report in time for its next consideration at WHA. As Malta and others noted, digital health is featured as a key element of the GPW, and we thank the comments of member states on the specific areas of importance within the report, particularly issues of quality of service delivery, strengthening health workforce education and management, and modern data management systems, which of course include public health surveillance. We look forward to supporting India and other member states in the intersessional discussions on this item. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I'd request DG to take the floor.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you so much for your inputs on this agenda item. This agenda item is very important, especially in terms of the future of healthcare. It will play a bigger role as we go forward. And I think it's very important that we try to see what the future of health will look like, especially with more use of digital health, artificial intelligence, and so on. So one thing we would like to do, not only WHO, but including other players, is to really see how the healthcare will look like with more use of digital health, including AI. And 2030, as you know, is tomorrow. It's in 12 years now. I think we need to go beyond that and probably be a step or two ahead to see what the future will look like with more use of digital health. Then, as you rightly said, we can use it or exploit it in a better way. So that's one. And second, I agree with many of you who have commented. It will definitely, in the near future, help us in improving the quality of services, and also as part of universal health coverage, especially to address some of the gaps we have using the technology. But I also fully understand that digital health has its limitations, and as has been said, especially primary health care, without foot soldiers, we cannot achieve it. But we can see its comparative advantage and try to use it to the maximum. So while looking forward, using it now to the maximum is very important, and I think that's what you're trying to say. And to do that, especially from the partners, we're partnering with ITU, and we have agreed to take our partnership to a higher level. There is a lot of opportunity that they can give us, which we haven't really made use of. And we have underlined that although we had partnership, there is a huge potential which is not really exploited or a wasted opportunity. And that's why we're working very closely to use digital health as opportunity in partnership with the right organization that can guide us. So we would use it more if we have strong partnership with ITU, and we have already agreed to revise our MOUs and other partnership frameworks and aspire even more. And through ITU, we are already reaching out to, we have met Facebook and others, and other like Google, to see how we can partner. By the way, there are many opportunities, including some of the new financing mechanisms are coming actually through this new, fresh finance opportunities for global health, of course, and WHO. So we will put it as part of, as you suggested, the innovation hub, which we're trying to build here, and see digital health, not only in terms of what it can do in the future, but at the same time, how we can exploit it to the maximum now. But living with digital health, it's a must. With the changing world, it's a must. We have to be ahead of the game. Otherwise, it's a must, and the only option we have is how do we use it to the maximum, and we have to prepare well. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. No doubt it was a very important topic, and we had very rich discussion. So as I see no more comments, I take it that the board wishes to take note of the report. This concludes the board's consideration of sub-item 4.4 of its agenda. We are almost getting there. So before we move on to the next group of items termed as matter for information 6.1, 2, 3, and 4, as I hope you will recall, under the new structure for Agenda EB 142, to support agenda management, item 6.1, matters for information, will not be open for discussion as we agreed when adopting the agenda on the first day. However, written statements could be put on the website. I propose that I'll simply open each item and ask if the board agrees to note the report, and this will enable us to finish in time. If the board agrees to this, we'll proceed further. I see no objection, so we will move on to item 6.1, which is the report of the regional committees to the executive board. The consolidated report of the meeting is contained in document EB 142/34. As I see, let me thank the regional committee chairs for this report and the board for noting this item, and we conclude the consideration of item 6.1. We shall move on to item 6.2, Global Vaccine Plan. The report by the Director General is contained in document EB 142/35. The report is noted, and we conclude the board's consideration of item 6.2. We shall now move on to item 6.3 of the agenda, matters for information, report of advisory bodies. The report by the Secretariat are contained in documents EB 142/36 and EB 142/36 addendum 1. Do you need to do this? As I see that the board, the report has been presented, and we conclude the consideration of sub-item 6.3. The last item in this is for information is item 6.4, eradication of poliomyelitis. The report by the Director General on the Global Vaccine Action Plan is contained in document EB 142/37 for information of the member states. And this is tabled, and this concludes the board's consideration of item 6.4 of its agenda. So thank you very much for that collaboration. We have New Zealand. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you for taking us through that. I just wanted to make one comment that for the next EB and beyond, it would be that there's the process or the decision-making process that led to some of these papers being included in information only would be much appreciated because there are certainly that we have posted a comment on at least one of them, but we're more than happy to follow the process, but we think it would be good to understand why a paper is included in this section and not in another section, perhaps in an agenda-setting framework in the future.
Thank you, New Zealand. That's a very pertinent point. So if there are no more comments, we'll move on to Malta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just a concluding comment from my part. I mean, this is Malta's last TB meeting, as our term of office comes to an end in May. And certainly we would like to thank all for providing us with this opportunity to sit on the Executive Board, and hope that even though we are a small member state, our contribution to the governance of this august organization is regarded as having been substantial. On a personal basis, as you have heard during the week, this is also my last meeting at the WHO governing body. Having regularly attended these meetings since 1999, I feel it is now about time for me to hang my boots. So the past 19 years have been a wonderful and most enriching experience, and in particular would thank you all for providing me with the opportunity to lead this committee last year. I thank you all for your confidence, your support, your cooperation, and your understanding, not only last year, but even over the years. But above all, I would like to thank you all for your friendship. Allow me, Mr. Chair, to congratulate you, firstly on your achievement of the Dr. Shusha Foundation Prize, and for the way you have run this yet again very heavy Executive Board session. I would like to thank the Director General and, of course, his staff, his team, the Secretariat, Legal Counsel, and his team, and the interpreters for all their hard work. I can assure you that my time at WHO, and all of you in particular, will remain in my mind and closer to my heart for many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Malta. Your contribution, both in a personal and in the capacity of your government, has been very, very outstanding, let me assure you that. Distinguished delegates, we have now come to the end of the 142nd session of the Executive Board, but before we close the meeting, I would like to invite the Director General to say a few words. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to start by thanking our chair for steering this meeting really in a very excellent way. So thank you so much, Chair. Then I would also like to thank you, all board members, non-members, and civil society, non-state actors, for all your contribution and guidance. I'm really happy because we have a very successful meeting. And then I would also like to thank you specifically for your decision to endorse and pass it to the Assembly, the GPW, or the 5-year strategic plan. It's a very bold one. One thing I like from the document is the triple billion. You have already said it. And it will happen. I really believe in what we have agreed, and so do you. That's why you endorsed it. And this is, of course, the first very important step, and hopefully the Assembly will also endorse it. And until then, we will do the homework that you have given us. But thank you so much for really being very ambitious. Not only it's ambitious, as you know, it's fast-tracked and it's being completed 16 months ahead of its schedule by the board. And when the Assembly endorses it, it will be a year ahead of schedule. And I think we have fulfilled one commitment. In my speech, I said speed, volume, and quality. A balance of the three is important. We have to really speed up, and we have to aspire big volume. And we have to also make sure that we're following, we're having or achieving good quality. The three, I think, should be the guiding principles for WHO. And that's what you have already approved. You told us to move fast, you told us to think big, and also you told us to take care of the quality. And the three can be balanced. And endorsing the GPW a year in advance is already one of the things we did today or yesterday by endorsing it. One of the principles, which is the speed. And on behalf of my colleagues, the whole staff of WHO, I assure you that we will work or we will do more with a sense of urgency. So that speed is what you're saying, the sense of urgency. Be it for UHC, for emergency, or the other issues we discussed, sense of urgency should be at the center. And then, of course, all the other documents you have endorsed. I just took the GPW as central for this EB session, but all the endorsements, all the guidance that you have given us, I really thank you so much. And then from there, I would also like to recognize some of the problems we posed, or some problems we had, especially in delayed posting of some documents. And your comments were very clear. So next board meeting or the assembly, we will go into posting, this is going to be very ambitious, all documents on time. On time. It's a big commitment, but we should do it because we have been struggling for many years and it has to stop. So we will give it our best so 100% of the documents are posted on time. So you have enough time to discuss. And among other weaknesses you have identified, I will take this as one to really take forward to improve or to post the documents on time. Then on some of the things I would like to remind you as a closing, the third part of my closing speech is to remind you about the three things I asked during my speech at the opening of the EB session. As you remember, the first one is up to 3 commitments on how each country would fulfill its pledges to UHC. That's one. And we would appreciate it if you can start as soon as you go back, or those who are representing your capitals here to send your message. So each and every member state comes during the assembly in May with its commitment of up to 3 pledges or commitments for UHC. And the second is the Health Reserve Army. I was told instead of army, it's better to call it Reserve Health Force. Fine. But this will be, I think, a game changer. And we would like you, we will send you, of course, the official request, but we want as many countries as possible to pledge. But when you pledge, it's not only availing your personnel, but whenever your personnel are required to be deployed anywhere, you will also cover all expenses. So it's like money positioned in many places and personnel positioned in many places. So instead of having the money in our coffer, the money stays wherever, especially for emergency, and then you give us in kind, your personnel and all that you can cover. I think this will help when there is an emergency to respond to, and I hope we will get your agreement or your commitments before the May meeting during the Assembly, and then so that we can report during the Assembly. But details, we will make it in writing. Then the third, many of you have been championing the unearmarked funding. That was the third ask I had. And I would like to remind you on that. And we would appreciate it if you really can discuss this in your countries and on how best you can help us. I think the unearmarked funding will be the best way to ensure ownership of the priorities. Prioritization, as we have agreed with earmarked funding, is difficult. And we have discussed this at length, so I don't want to repeat, but this was the third ask. We will communicate on this one also formally again, the three of them, but just a reminder of what I have asked at the beginning, and we will get, I know we will get your support. Then finally, I would like to thank the outgoing EB members. I will start with Malta. Ray took the floor, and he was chairing my candidacy also. And incredible leadership. And you know, I don't need to say this. And thank you so much for your service, and which was really appreciated by all of us, all the candidates maybe I can represent. And especially with me, there is a special relationship because I became the DG in your, and you were the one who was scrutinizing everything. So thank you so much for your leadership. And 19 years, and now you're saying you will stop, but I will not allow you, and we will need your support and, again, commitment to really support WHO. So thank you so much, and look forward to working with you very closely. Thank you, Ray. And then I would like to thank the other countries. I don't want to take your time, so I will just list the countries, no any order, we just listed it as it came. France, Canada, Republic of Congo, Dominican Republic, Thailand, Malta, Sweden, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, New Zealand, and Philippines. So thank you so much. Until we send you our thank you letter official, I just wanted to do it verbally. If there is any country I missed, forgive me and remind me. Iraq is also outgoing? Okay, so thank you so much, sir.
The boards. Still, we are working with the executive. Yes, okay, thanks. Thanks. No. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I didn't forget any country then. So thank you so much. And finally, thank you so much for this very successful EB. And we will serve you the best way we can. And I wish us a great New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, DG, for your remarks, and now it's time to close the proceedings. Let me thank all the board members, the non-members, the non-state actors, and other participants, particularly the Secretariat, the staff who has been working with me, the technical staff, as well as the governing body staff. It would not have been simply possible without your collaboration and your assistance, as well as the assistance of the staff. It has been an honor both to represent my country here, Pakistan, as well as in a personal capacity, actually to work with two DGs. We had the new DG in this board, and then I had the honor of chairing the last EB of the previous DG, Dr. Chan. So it's really been a privilege and an honor, and I hope that you have safe travels back home. So thank you very much once again. And I now declare, before declaring that, there's an announcement that the restaurant is open, though he asked me to clarify food is not free. So now I declare the 142nd session of the Executive Board closed.